So, this is my 1996 Mazda Miata. I've had it about a year. I got it in March of 2017, and when I got it, it had no paint on it. It was slammed on coils and like bald tires. So this is just going to be basically a 1 year of ownership. It's end of July right now, 2018, so a little over a year. But a year of ownership and what my thoughts are driving a Miata. So I'll just get started with the basic stuff. So basically, first thing that we did was Marshall and I prepped this thing down. We got all sanded down. After that, we filled all the spots that were down to bare metal with primer and sanded that down too, and then we sent it to Mako. And it's a $400 Mako paint job. You've seen it on the channel before. It's definitely not perfect, but it basically looks like it did the day I got it painted. So I'm really not upset. A lot of people will say that Mako paint jobs, they'll basically in a year they'll be super sun fading, they'll start chipping and things like that, but really it's exactly how it was when I got it. It's definitely not shiny. Like, it doesn't have that super nice shine, but if I like really buff this and polish it, which I haven't, I've just done quick details on it, it would really come out. I mean, there's a couple spots like right here, there's a chip, and on the front there's a bunch of like streaks where the old paint came through. But as far as I'm concerned, it's $400 well spent. So next thing I did was ended up getting these clear turn signals, replaced those. Really wanted these wheels and tires, so Marshall and I drove to, I think it was Cedar Rapids. Shitty little town that's full of traffic and we can't get out of here. But we just picked up the rims.
And they're clean as fuck.
$300 a piece, or for all of them. And the guy had them on a BMW when he bought it, and he said that the guy didn't even drive them through the winter. Like, I'll show you a better look once we get back, but they're clean. There's no chipping, there's no bends or cracks or anything like that. And the tires are like, they're drivable, they're pretty decent. So we're gonna drive 2 hours back home, throw them on, see what it looks like, and then probably install the coilovers. But we gotta get out of this town first.
How the fuck?
Or Cedar Falls, I'm not sure. And we ended up picking up these, they're drag DR50s, I think. 15x7, obviously 4x100. And they had 205 50s on them. And I raised the car up a bunch too, and I still couldn't fit the 205s. I ended up pulling out this fender. You could see the paint's chipping there. So I ended up having to roll these fenders. The backs are already cut from the previous owner. But I got sick of it, and I ended up getting these 195 50s. They're a Hankook Ventus V2 concept. And I probably only have 100 miles on these. So they're pretty good tires, and they'll fit right in the fender too. So this is about, and I lowered it a little bit. So that's about as high as this car is ever going to be. Because when I first got it, it was so low that on the test drive, it bent this fender. And it's still bent. So I'm going to get 2 new fenders eventually. They're not very expensive. And what else did I do to it? Still haven't got a mirror for the passenger side. Still missing that. Interior, I got these sill plates from Matthew. About $40. I still got to pay him, but these are on his 93. So that's a nice addition. I was going to put his seats in from a 93, but they ended up having a different bracket. Got the style bar. I traded my wheels that came with this car. You've seen them on the channel. They're the American Racing rims. I traded those to Matthew for the style bar that he had on his 93. So that just bolted right into place. The bolts already they're already in there. And he ended up putting new tires on those, so that's what he's driving. But he's getting rid of that Miata anyway. This Hurst shifter came from Marshall's Miata. It was also on the channel earlier. It's a really nice Hurst shifter. I don't know how much it is, but I figured I might as well rock it for now. I always hated it, but now I'm starting to get the hang of it. the steering wheel is shot. It's from Matthew's Miata, just because mine was so flexy up here, it was kind of dangerous. So I just took Matthew's and electrical taped it. So that works now. Yesterday, I got a speedometer cable from Matthew. I've rocked this car with no speedometer cable for over a year, and now it finally has a speedometer cable, so that works. Put a little sleepy eye in, made a video on that. What else is done to here? Not much, really. It's just did maintenance and stuff on that. Let's see what's under the hood. Another one of the first things I did was paint the valve cover. The valve cover had like this really crappy wrinkle like paint job. I like the wrinkle paint job, but it was chipping really bad. So this is the Ricer red that I used caliper paint on, painted it, shaved off the letters. Didn't turn out too bad. Got new spark plugs for it. Wires are still the same. I think they're pretty new. This heat shield I took off and ran a license plate for a while just because I thought it looked cool. That's what I had during the edit, and in a few weeks you'll be seeing we had a friend who is really good with cinematography and stuff like that film this car in Des Moines, and it's a pretty cool edit, so stay tuned for that. Got this Spectre air intake. Marshall fabbed up this little piece of metal we found in my garage, and so that's and I don't know why that's in there. And so that's holding this in, and it's pretty sturdy. And so we're able to use a stock air box, and everything works with that. I've done a lot of things with this car I didn't remember. So I snapped a belt off. I don't really remember how it snapped off, but the diff seals are really bad on this car and were leaking. So I was driving it to a shop, and this belt snapped right here. The power steering belt. Well, I don't have power steering, but the AC belt. So Marshall and I ended up replacing those. I snapped the alternator belt, or the alternator tensioner, so we ended up getting a bolt for that, snapped it again, but there's a video on that too. We showed you how to replace those belts. As far as the diff seals go, they were going to charge me $700-800, somewhere around there. So I took it to my uncle's shop, put it on a lift, and the seals themselves were probably $20. So, and then we refilled the diff and put new fluid in it and all that. So probably a $20 job total. Just took a bit of time. Those Yonaka coilovers came on the car, and so I just raised them up a ton. I actually went back to like stock, and I ended up getting these stock struts, and I used those for like a month, and then when I got these wheels, I immediately wanted to put coilovers back on. Borla exhaust, that came with the car. Sounds pretty nice. It's just a cat back, stock cat. Put this AutoZone tip on a few weeks ago. And if you watch my other videos, you've seen that I basically bedlined the trunk. And since I've done that, it really cleaned up the trunk, but my buddy Matthew was nice enough to give me this whole interior here. I had this spare. It's actually from Marshall's old Miata. This carpet's from Matthew's Miata. Got this nice cover here that wasn't there before. If you look at past the old videos, this whole trunk was just rotted out basically. And so I brought it back to life, put a jack in there, kind of made it look sort of stock again. And batteries in there still, works just fine. But that's pretty much everything I've done to the Miata in a year. And so, I mean, it's a lot of money for me. $400 for the paint job, $300 for the wheels, $250 for new tires, and then valve cover gasket and spark plugs, oil change, new belts, diff fluid, diff seals, air intake, turn signals. So it's like the little stuff that really adds up over time that you don't even think about when you're spending the money. What I want to do next is I really want to get a new steering wheel, just because this one's shot, and I think I'm going with the silver accents. and that'll really tie everything together. But what I'm doing now is I'm trying to save money for a turbo kit. I want to get the CX Racing. It's like $1,500, and it's going to take me a while to save up. So I'm going to keep driving this, enjoying it in the summer. But once I have the money, and once I can no longer drive this thing, because the winters get pretty bad here, I'm going to put it in a garage. And we're going to pull the motor and re-gasket it because it leaks a little bit. Pretty sure I'm going to do that because it's cheap. And then got a couple buddies, we're going to turbo this thing. So that's my year in review of the Miata. Overall, it's been my summer car. I couldn't drive it most of the year, but I really enjoy driving this thing. There's nothing like top-down cruising. So this is 515 Garage, and thanks for watching.